Slupsky!
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slupsky, and we are back for another week of digging into G.I. Joe issue by issue, panel by panel, page by page, episode by episode. It's what we do here on Joe on Joe. It's another Joe on Joe Illustrated this week, where we are covering issue 118 of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. Very excited. It's the third part of the Destro Search and Destroy arc. It's Ninja Force is here. Destro's getting his comeuppance, Commander's getting his comeuppance. Destro's getting his revenge. It's all happening. It's all very, very cool. So, welcome back, listeners, and all you new folks, welcome aboard. If you're new to the show, check out the feed. We've covered 117 of these issues. We've also covered all the Sunbow, all the DIC animated stuff, and we're trucking along into this new year. And we're happy to have you. As long as you're out there and looking to listen to more G.I. Joe stuff, you can certainly follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Joe on Joe Pod. Send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the show. Let me know if you love it, hate it. If you want to, contribute to it, open to things like that. And I've been getting some great messages lately. The other day, I got a fun one from Agent Chuckles, who's out there. He's revisiting stuff, and he went back and he listened to our episode 100, which was me and my wife, Toileteel, and we covered the PSAs in like full breakdown mode, like really broke down all the PSAs, and it was a lot of fun. I haven't thought about that episode actually a lot, or in a long time, because that was a few years ago. I haven't thought about that in a while, and then Agent Chuckles reminded me, and I was like, oh yeah, that was pretty fun. That was a good time. And so thank you, Agent Chuckles. I appreciate you reaching out. It brightened it brightened her day, because she was the guest on that. And it was a lot of fun to do that. You can also go to patreon.com/JoeOnJoePod, and over there you can you can help support the show, which is always welcome. But B, if you become a Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or we have $3, or if you have something you want to sponsor, or something you want to promote, we have sponsorship tiers. You can get access to the first 50 so episodes of Joe and Joe Illustrated, which is where I go over the issue by issue of G.I. Joe Real American Hero. So those are only available on the Patreon page. And speaking of sponsors, let's give it a listen to the Movies in a Meal podcast.
Listeners, I know what you need in your life. You need more podcasts. And you also love movies. So why not do a podcast that's about not one movie. It's about not two movies. It's about 3 movies and a meal. I'm talking the Movies and a Meal podcast. This show is great. It's brought to you by Keith, Brad, and Ben, and each week they bring a new movie to the table, which they all discuss as a group. And it's not, your highfalutin movies. It's What We Do in the Shadows, The Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Out of Sight. It's Bad Education, Ghost Rider, and A View to a Kill. It's X-Men Last Stand, Queen Sugar, The Mandalorian, and Major League 2. They are a lot of fun to listen to. You guys know Ben. It's our friend Ben Pensarga. He was a guest on Joe and Joe. In fact, Ben was the very first remote guest that I ever had on this podcast, so he's always got a special place in my heart. I'm really digging this. I just started listening to it last week. It is a lot of fun. They bring a guest in. The guest, I listened to their Heathers episode. They were joined by Kelly, and she went in depth on her favorite movie, which was Heathers, and it made me want to go watch Heathers to watch with them. I really dig it. So guys, find them out there at Movies and a Meal, Twitter, Instagram. Their website is moviesandameal.podbean.com. They put out 1 episode a week. Give them a listen, guys. Support them. Let them know Joe on Joe sent you. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is quite entertaining. And now back to the show.
And please head over there and give them a listen for sure. And now,
You were saying?
it's that time where we look at comic books that were on the stand the same month that this issue of G.I. Joe was. So this is cover dated November of 1991. That means that's the That's the note to sellers. That's the date to remove it. So it was actually on the shelf in July of 1991. But we're actually we ran into a wrinkle today, ladies and germs, because as we're recording this, the database that the Marvel wiki fandom database that we've been pulling all this information from, is not working. So, so I don't have a reliable source for what the other comic books from 1991 are from Marvel. The DC database is working. Whoever manages that database is doing their job. So we're going to do DC today. And hopefully by the time we get to next week's issue, we'll find another resource for the Marvel stuff. But as of right now, I'm sitting here with my comic book in my hand, so to speak. But over at DC Comics, we've got some exciting stuff. Actually, one of my favorite books of all my childhood was Batman Holy Terror. This is fantastic. This Norm Brayful did the artwork. Was it Alan? Did Alan Grant write it? Alan Brennert. I'm sorry. Alan Brennert wrote it, and the idea behind Holy Terror is one of the first Elseworlds stories. They didn't call them Elseworlds at the time, but it was one of the. No, does it? Well, it's got it in the corner. So maybe this is literally one of the actual first branded ones, because I know we had done Gotham by Gaslight, and that was one of the first ones too. I'm not exactly sure when they came up with the Elseworlds logo, but it is in the corner of this cover that I'm looking at. So I don't know if that's a newer cover or if that's a scan of the original. But either way, Holy Terror is holy cow. It's awesome. First of all, the holy part is a great callback to Batman from the 60s, which as a kid, I don't think I even got. But the principle, the idea is what if I'm going to get it wrong as far as what church, but it's one of the, it's if Oliver Cromwell maintained his hold on England. So England is like a Puritan theocracy. And so America never really left England. So Gotham City is run by England in the, so it looks like it takes place in, I forget exactly when, like mid 1700s or something like that. I forget exactly when, but, or no, or is it modern? No, I'm sorry. It is modern day. Sorry. Burp. Yeah. It's been a while since I read this, but so it's like modern day Batman, but society is this puritanical theocracy, run by, we're a British colony, basically. America is. And so like Batman is a religious symbol, like the bat symbol on his chest is kind of set up like a priest's collar kind of a thing. It's really cool. Batman Holy Terror was awesome. And it was illustrated by Norm Brayful, who, he passed a couple years ago. One of my favorite Batman artists of all time. I never think he gets enough due. So if you've never read Holy Terror, and it doesn't have the flash, the thing is, it doesn't have the flash of, Batman versus Jack the Ripper, or what if Superman landed in Russia, or what if Batman was a Green Lantern. Like, it doesn't have that kind of flash. It's more subtle, because it's about, what if society was run by a church? What would Batman be like if he was a priest? And it's great. It's really, really great. So if you've never read Holy Terror, I urge you to seek it out. I know it's been collected in some of those like Elseworld trade reprints, but you also should be able to get a copy of the original, probably $10. It shouldn't be that expensive anywhere online. Human Target Special #1. I like the Human Target a lot. I've never read his ongoing series. I read a bunch of his miniseries. I read a couple of his old stuff. The principle is that he's a what would he be? He's literally a human target. If there's a contract hit on you, so you have a reason to think someone's going to try to assassinate you, he takes your place, and sometimes takes the assassin's bullet, sometimes foils the assassin. And it's a fun gag. There's currently a Human Target series that's running right now from Tom King, and it's got the Human Target with crossover with the Bwahaha Giffen Justice League, the Justice League International. So Blue Beetle, Booster, Fire, Ice, those guys, and it's playing out like an old Raymond Chandler style detective noir story. It's pretty good so far. I've been a little, not fed up's the wrong word, but I'm a little full with Tom King's miniseries. They've been diminishing returns for a little bit for me. Very talented. He's a talented writer. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of there's like his Adam Strange. His Strange Adventures one was not great, and the Bat and the Cat thing isn't great in my opinion. But I like his Human Target story. His Human Target book's really good. Now I say that if it ends in like weird character assassination of like Blue Beetle murdering someone, then I don't know how happy I'm going to feel about it. But so far, the actual adventure's been pretty well done. Justice Society of America, Volume 1, Number 8. This was the final issue of the 8-part Justice Society revival they were trying to do. It was enough to launch a new series, and then that series lasted, I think, 12 issues. But it was good. It was decent. And, and then it just wasn't time. So it would take a few years until the Justice Society was really welcomed back into the fold, so to speak. John Byrne has a cool book. It's John Byrne's take on Omac. So Byrne loves Kirby, of course, and he was done playing with Superman. And he went back to Marvel for a bit, and so now they let him come back to DC and play in the Kirby playground. And so he took on the Omac character, which is one man army corps. He's in the future. Calls down, gets power from the satellite Brother Eye, and it turns him into this mohawked, really awesome looking mohawked super soldier from the future. And this is Byrne's take on that. The Kirby series was great, and I really like it a lot. But I do enjoy this Omac series. It's pretty well done. It was kind of ignored. They never really did anything with Byrne's version. Like never did anything with Byrne's version of Omac that I can recall. And then of course they brought back Omac. In Infinite Crisis. Yeah, they brought back the character, the concept in Infinite Crisis, and it's been in and out of DC Comics ever since. So the Byrne Omac series, it's a 4-issue miniseries with some good looking black and white covers. It's pretty neat. What else we got here? Wonder Woman fights Lobo on the cover of Wonder Woman 60. And Ragman's on issue 2 of his miniseries. I like Ragman. Yeah, that looks about it for DC Comics.
You were saying?
Now, like I said, we have no reliable source for Marvel Comics. So, wait, hold on one second. So, I'm going to try and find a new Marvel source for next week. And if so, we'll circle back and cover it. But we are going to look at the movies that were out. And so this is July of 1991. July of 1991, I was turning, so my birthday is July 13th, so I was turning 16. And I absolutely recall where I was on July 3rd, 1991. Maybe it was even July 2nd, because it might have been like a midnight late show, but I don't remember if it was that exactly. But it was definitely opening weekend. I was in Florida with my boy Paul Carey. We were staying at his family's for a couple of weeks, and we went to see Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and it changed my life. Changed my life, son. Changed my life. Terminator 2 Judgment Day is all-time fabulous, great, near perfect movie. I love it. I love it so much. And seeing it in the theater, that's one of those theater experiences where I remember it. I just remember it all. I remember leaving the theater. I remember being excited about it. It's funny because while we were on that vacation, through Paul's family, we had access to like our own little moped, and they drive around on one in Terminator 2. So we were the moped kids. He had a driver's license. I did not have a driver's license yet. I would actually get mine in the next week, which leads us to, on July 5th, the movie Slacker came out, which is great. That's a huge, important movie for independent cinema. Richard Linklater, Slacker. It's an awesome movie. I've seen it a couple times. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but it's really, it's a Linklater. It's Linklater's like first big movie. I think it's first. Is it his first movie, or I know it's his first like released movie, and it's great. It's weird. It's just a bunch of weirdos in Austin. I believe Austin, yeah. And the Slacker's awesome. Slacker's worth a revisit if you haven't seen it in a while. And then on July 12th, just one day before my birthday, which would have been then, I guess it would have been a Saturday, Boys in the Hood dropped. Point Break, Patrick Swayze, Keanu Reeves, directed by Catherine Bigelow. And Regarding Henry with my favorite Harrison Ford. And then the next day, I'll tell you exactly what I was doing on July 13th, and here's how I know. I was turned 16, and I said, I thought I was clear. I thought I clearly, this is, remember, pre-cell phones, right? So I thought I clearly said, hey, Mom, can I have the car all day? Because we just want to go drive around and bomb around town and celebrate my birthday and do stupid stuff and, you know, not dangerous stuff, but like go to various malls and just go shopping and just be jerks, you know, all day long. And it was a Saturday. And I was given the keys to the car with the understanding that that's what I was doing. And apparently I wasn't very clear that I was taking the car all day. So when I got home that night around like 7 or 8 o'clock, I was in trouble. And I got in trouble. I believe I got grounded and privileges taken away. And I was very confused because I thought I was clear that I was taking the car all day, but it probably was. Let's be real. I was probably a little cagey about it, but I thought I was clear about it. And more importantly, I think what really got me in trouble is that that day started before we could even set out on any type of adventure with me getting my first speeding ticket. Some Chicago Ridge or Oak Lawn, it would have been Oak Lawn cop gave me a speeding ticket the morning of my 16th birthday. So to whoever that cop was, who's laughing now? I'm speeding in another city. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have a car right now. Anyway, so that's what I remember for my 16th birthday is I got a speeding ticket first thing in the morning. I'm talking like 11 a.m. And then we were out all day doing stuff. I don't even remember what we were doing. We weren't like drinking or anything stupid. We were just being stupid. And then I got grounded and or in trouble when I got home that night. So yeah, 16th birthday. July 19th though, a couple days later, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. I love this movie. It's fabulous. Also Dutch with Ed O'Neill. Was he like the stepfather or something? Wasn't that what he was? Something like that, but it's Ed O'Neill with a precocious kid, and I know he has a hockey stick on the cover. On the 24th, The Doctor with recently passed William Hurt. On the 26th, Mel Brooks' Life Stinks. We also get V.I. Warshawski with Kathleen Turner. Mobsters with Christian Slater, Patrick Dempsey, Richard Grieco, Costas Mandalore, F. Murray Abraham, Lara Flynn Boyle. If you guys remember this movie, Anthony Quinn's in this. Robert Zadar. I had lunch next to Robert Zadar at a Comic-Con once. Chris Penn? What? Titus Welliver? Bosch's very own Titus Welliver. If you remember, Mobsters was their attempt to do Young Guns, but with mobsters instead of cowboys. That's exactly what Mobsters was. And then July 31st, Hot Shots by Jim Abrahams, you know, the Airplanes, Jim Abrahams, Charlie Sheen, Cary Elwes. It was like a spoof on, Top Gun kind of a thing, and other movies of that ilk. But I think Hot Shots 2 is considered funnier. It was like a spoof on like Rambo and Top Gun and all that stuff. But Hot Shots is, listen, I love Airplane. I love that stuff. At a certain point, it stops being funny, but there's still some comedy to be mined there. Kevin Dunn's in it. John Cryer, Valerie Galino, Lloyd Bridges, Christy Swanson, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. You guys know him as Alfred on Batman the Animated Series. Anyway.
You were saying, now, mass is ready.
G.I. Joe 118. Let's get into it. So we've got this great cover. Michael Golden back once again. Destro and Cobra Commander going hand to hand. I kind of wish this happened in the comic book. It's disappointing that it's not. We're going to get to that part of the podcast. We'll get there. But again, it's Cobra Commander in his in a great look, more black than blue suit with the gold piping and the epaulets and and all that stuff. Destro in his Iron Grenadier look. They're again not drawing Cobra Commander on the cover in his crazy red face look, which he is on the inside, which is not to my liking. We've been there, discussed. But yeah, it's a great cover. It really pops, and it's got a nice white background so that the dark colors, like the darkness of Cobra Commander and Destro kind of pops off the page. And they're going over the logo, which is really nice too. And Destro's gun is fairly toy accurate, if just kind of eyeballing it. And yeah, it's pretty good approximation of what his toy gun was, at least the first one. So with that, Yo Joe, let's get this rolling. Deceptions and Diversions. Script by Larry Hama, pencils Rod Wiggum, inks Randy Emberlin, letters Mike Heisler. Now that's a new name. Mike Heisler, welcome aboard. Colors Bob Sharon, editor Bobby Chase, and in chief Tom DeFalco. So if you remember last time, we left off with the bellhop and the maid and the room service guys. They were about to bust in on a hotel in Beirut to get Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes had sent a coded phone call to Storm Shadow back in the States saying, come on over here. We need the help of the Ninja Force. And so Snake Eyes is waiting for them to arrive. And meanwhile, he's getting ambushed in his hotel room. And we see what's happening here with a nice bird's eye view of the room, the door getting busted open, Snake Eyes kind of in the shadows. He's a little obvious, but it's so that we can see him. It makes sense. What else do we have here? It's there's a book that says Visit Scenic Beirut. It's like a travel guide. The keys to the room are sitting on the edge of the counter. They're busting the door in. And it's a bellhop, a maitre d', and then a maid. They've all got machine guns. Yo, Joe! And they're referencing the name Snake Eyes checked into the Habime or Habim, which translated to Snake Eyes. So now in the dark, Snake Eyes comes launching up into the air. They don't maintain, the shadows aren't maintained on the page. It's good action. Snake Eyes jumps up in the air and then comes down from above, and they fire where he's not standing, because he's moving so quickly. He's also in his, it's his V4 look with that, I call it the dog catcher face mask. But it's a combination of that, plus he's got the trench knives across the chest. And he whaps them with his sword. It was like a crazy eight, and instead of slice, we get a whap. One of the guns gets thrown out the window. The maid, the female maid, she's trying to shoot. Snake Eyes is moving too fast in the caption. The thing I'm talking about with the shadows is, we dispense with the fact that they're in the darkness. What would have been neat here, and maybe this is because I've got a little Batman on the brain, is the room illuminating as they're firing their machine guns. So like in this side panel, it's a tall panel on the left hand. It's the second panel of the page. It's tall, takes about 3/4 of the left hand, 3/4 and 1/3 of the page. Snake Eyes is vaulting over them, and everything's illuminated because they're firing. But then in the next panel, which is an open border panel, it's still white. It's still white, and you see everything. And then you get back to her at the bottom, and as she's shooting as well, the room lights up bright. So if they were going for that effect, it's not really achieved, but that would have been a neat effect to go for here. This would have been perfect for it, where it's darkness, then anytime they're shooting, you see them, and then you get a little darkness. So like if that third panel is what I'm saying, if that third open panel, instead of being just brightly lit, if that was in the darkness, that would have gotten this effect over that the light is coming from the guns. But it's still fun. Yo, Joe! So Snake Eyes kicks the machine gun out of her hand, and she says, make it a quick death, cut me down like you did my brothers. And we see that, if you notice, I'm not adding anything to the Snake Eyes kill count, because she points out that he merely stunned them with the flat of his sword. He is not there to murder these people. What kind of man is merciful to those who would kill him even when the mercy puts himself at risk? Perhaps Cobra Commander wasn't quite telling the whole truth about the renegade cobras he put a reward out on. So they think he's a renegade cobra. Well, no, they don't. See, this got a little confusing. So she says that, but then she goes on to say, he said that Destro was being aided by the G.I. Joe team. He said that if we captured a Joe, we might be able to make him talk, but I have a feeling that nothing could ever make you talk. But his mercy, somehow she's reflecting his mercy on the traitorous cobras, which I don't think plays very well. Like, that doesn't make any sense. When I read this, my first thought was that she thought he was a traitorous cobra himself. But then in the next set of dialogue, it's clear that she knows he's a G.I. Joe guy. And they were also trying to capture him, which, shooting him full of Uzis, filling him full of Uzi isn't a good way to capture a guy. So this is a little muddled. I'm going to throw that out there. But I like the way it's told. The Snake Eyes holding the sword, kind of menacing up on her. You get her reflection in the blade of his sword. Yo, Joe! Now, 2 weeks later, at the Beirut waterfront. So that happened with Snake Eyes, and then 2 weeks went by, and we don't really know what went down. But this is the tramp freighter that the guys stowed away on. The guys being Destro, Zartan, Billy, and Chuckles. Remember, they shot down a helicopter full of Night Creeper so that the Night Creeper couldn't report their position in. But they've obviously twigged on to the fact that they're on board this vessel, and so they're expecting this vessel to be in there. Now, here's a question with that. They seem to know that's the tramp freighter that steamed out of Marseille after blowing up our helicopter. That's the ship Destro's on. So if they do know that Destro's on that ship, we thought that they stopped him from radioing in that they were on that ship. So why didn't they attack him in the open water? You can't tell me that's out of the reach of these Night Creepers. So they had 2 weeks to find this tramp freighter, and it's just a freighter. It's not anything in disguise. It's nothing special. So I don't know. They say here that a fisherman loyal to the BTF, the Beirut Terrorist Front, he called in citing that he saw the freighter making its way for Lebanon. But the Night Creepers have a lot of resources. Like, I don't know. And then they knew what the ship was, so they probably would have had to file papers of, anyway. This falls apart a little bit if you break it down, but, it sets up for a good adventure. Which is, this ship is coming in hot. The Night Creepers can't find any people on board this ship, and the ship is heading towards the dock. There's no heat signatures. There's no one on it. And they figure that the Joes are making their way ashore somehow in some other way. Yo, Joe! So is this Beirut Terrorist Front. They get into a motorized boat, a little inflatable raft, and they head out past the boat. Now, this is one of those situations where the artwork is it's tough. Because they have to draw this. They have to draw the freighter in frame, showing that it's heading towards the dock. But if you really look at how the ratios and where the freighter is in relation to the dock, the timing is way off, because this freighter appears imminently to hit the dock, and it doesn't hit the dock. It is going to hit the dock, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't hit the dock until after this boat has the opportunity to go all the way out to sea, search for the other sailors who are on life rafts. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a timing thing here. We've talked about this before. in comics where it's hard to draw like high speed chases, right? Or actually, it's hard to draw people tailing people because you have to draw them in the same frame. So it always looks like the car is closer to the actual car they're tailing than it would ever happen. You know, you do see it in a lot of movies too, where they're right up on them, but it's because the camera has to get them all in the same frame to tell the viewer that, you know, they're following them. And we're running into that problem here because this second panel looks like that boat's about to hit the dock. I love the shots here at the bottom of the empty derelict freighter. It's great. I would have liked to have seen it's not called the steering wheel. What's that? The helm? Is that the ship's the thing the captain steers? Is that the helm? I would have liked to have seen that somehow like strapped down. Now I know it's probably electronic even back then, you know, or locked in, like they could lock it on a course, and you know, and just, you know, whatever. But it would have been a neat visual to see that someone roped it down so that it was, you know, we would maintain its course. Like that would have been a cool add to that. But I like the empty stairs. I like the empty hallways. It's like you see a kitchen, you see a bunk room, and there's no one anywhere. And then you see into the kitchen, you see that there's a door for the refrigerator, and it says, "Please keep the refrigerator door shut." That should tell you something. Yo, Joe! Now, we go back to the terrorists, and this is what I'm talking about. They're now boating way, way, way out into the ocean. And because they got the signatures that there were lifeboats out there, and so they're gonna light them up. They're gonna open, you know, so they turn the flashlights on, and all the machine guns are up and ready to go. But we see that it's the captain. He says, "Don't shoot. We're not the ones you seek." The man in the metal mask and his friends are not in the lifeboat. They're still aboard the freighter. So the Night Creeper says that's a lie. Our scanners don't lie. And what's this great here is that Larry's showing that these technological Night Creepers, the tech ninjas, they're relying on their technology so much that they're not thinking critically. You know, they don't think to send someone on board to verify that there's no other one on, you know, no one else on board, right? They looked at their scanners, they said there's no one on there, and they took it for granted. So I like that. That shows a weakness. But as he does that, the door clangs open. Yo, Joe! And we get Destro and Chuckles and Billy and Zartan, and they're coming out of this freezer where they were using the freezer to mask their body signature. So that's a great idea. And then when they exit, they see that the boat is driving. It's sailing right past like this Ferris wheel, and it's about to hit the dock. So this is again where I go, I love this idea, but the timing of it the timing and the visuals don't match up. But it's an amusement park pier in Beirut, and they realize that, you know, Destro says, you know, we calculated the speed, the distance, and we double checked it. How could we be so far off? And Zartan points out that they didn't account for the tide. So the incoming tide brought them a lot closer than they expected to, a lot quicker than they expected to. So now they're seconds away from plowing into the pier. And right here is where the terrorists catch up to the boat. So now they've spun around and motorboated back in. So now they got spotlights on our four escapees. Yo, Joe! And the escapees all kind of jump for safety onto the side of the dock to get off it in what would be a great, this would really be great on screen. They do a really nice job with it. Rob does a really nice job with portraying this, because he has them jumping off the front. Is that the bow? The prow? The bow? The front of the boat. Don't send your emails. He says them jumping off the front of the boat. And then they're running on the dock as the boat plows through the dock. So it's like plowing behind them, and they're running just ahead of the breakage. Wasn't this in... I think this was in Godzilla. I think they did this in Godzilla, so which means G.I. Joe did this first. Because wasn't this... It was a ghost ship that plowed into New York Harbor. Wasn't that what happened? Am I thinking of the same? Is that the movie I'm thinking of? The 1999 Godzilla one, where Godzilla killed everybody and the ghost ship. Is that the movie I'm thinking of? But this is and there was like someone running down the pier. But this is fun. So this is it's a great illustration of it. Then you see the full damage here as the boat plows into the Ferris wheel and things like that. There is real footage of a boat that did this. What was it? Was it in Greece a couple of years ago? There's real footage of this, and it's wild.
Yo, Joe!
Like, whether they calculated it properly or not, Destro, Zartan, Chuckles, and Billy, I don't know what they thought was going to happen with this a boat with no captain that big plowing into a dock. That video didn't have a bunch of cars on it, and it just went ashore and just it was because it's so massive, you can't stop it. I do recall that. So they're escaping, they're jumping through the wreckage in a fun little dive here, and they're now in the amusement park section of this area. So we had a Ferris wheel, so now there, if you look closely, there's merry-go-rounds and fun house and stuff, things like that. So we've got some ninjas coming out of the shadows, and Billy says, "Hey, look out, Zartan, cover my back. We got some ninjas heading our way." And we get someone finally yelling to stop and put up your weapons.
Yo, Joe!
And it's Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. It's a little awkward on the dialogue because it leads you to say, like, someone says stop, put up your weapons. Chuckles says that's a familiar voice, and then the next panel, the first name used is Snake Eyes, which makes sense. He's drawn on the left, so that visually it makes sense, but that also implies that it was Snake Eyes' voice. Obviously it was Storm Shadow's voice. But yeah, so Billy and Storm Shadow reunite here. Ease up, Billy, these are friends. And Storm Shadow just randomly goes, "Oh, and by the way, I never believed you were dead." No, I just believed you were probably eating the dead carcass of other cobras locked in the freighter. That's what I believed. And we get another little soft reintro into the Ninja Force, Nunchuck, Chabang, and Dojo. Destro feels he needs to introduce himself for some reason. Zartan does for some reason. Chuckles, okay. And Billy for some reason. So everyone's friends now. And the Ninja Force is right. And as Storm Shadow says, now that everyone is properly introduced, shall we proceed to the airport? And we learn the Wild Bill has the C-130 tanked up and waiting on the apron. But Destro, there's a reason they're going to Beirut.
Yo, Joe!
That's a cool image up top. It's a Night Creeper had shot an arrow past Destro's head. It missed, but we see that the terrorist force and the Night Creepers are all teamed up. There's a Night Creeper on top of a flying elephant amusement park ride car, and it's just a fun gag. So you could easily have parked him on a building or just standing on some nondescript thing, but that they chose to have him on this. Like a giant elephant you would sit in and you would go around in a circle and it would move you up and down, things like that kind of amusement park ride. The Night Creeper standing on that, which is it's really neat. I think it absolutely adds something to this moment. Also pointing out all the camera angles that Rod is using in this. Let's look at this third panel here. They're escaping through the alleys. He chooses to put the camera like inside of a bombed out building. Now, I don't know if it's bombed out from the boat just hitting it or if it's just because it's Beirut. There's a lot of things that are bombed out, but it sets it up nicely. It just sets up this atmosphere of where they're escaping and, adds this element of people watching these guys because they're on the run. And we do get a whole Ninja Force half-page splash here, which is kind of fun if you're into that sort of thing. And it's Snake, Storm Shadow, Tabang, Dojo, and Nunchuck, all ninja forcing, all at the same time. It's all very exciting.
Yo, Joe!
Meanwhile, on the Arbco Valdez, remember the Exxon Valdez, Arbco Valdez, somewhere in the North Atlantic, Baroness is in the clutches of Cobra Commander. He's strapping her into a brainwave scanner. And we're going to get some more brainwave stuff. We've talked about this last time. I love the brainwave scanner. I wish it wasn't used every plot. I wish we could come up with something else. What's interesting here is they don't really say what he's doing with her. At least I don't think so. He's just going in to ruin her mind, I guess. He doesn't really spell out exactly why he's using the scanner on her. But we do get to see it in play. We get to see Cobra Commander's awkward red face mask.
Yo, Joe!
And a little bit of explanation of how it works. It records memories and creates a graphic representation of them on a three-dimensional matrix. This is very much like VR and the internet and living in a meta VR space. So this is Larry being ahead of the times, by the way, guys. This is 1991. So say what you will about maybe it was overused a little bit, but it's still a pretty great concept of representing what's in your mind in a mental space and you being able to walk around it and interact with it in a space that doesn't exist with real world implications. It's kind of cool, kind of prescient. She's resisting pretty well. We see that there's like statues and stuff of, like she must have learned to play. It looks like the violin. Maybe it's a guitar, but like there's paintings and there's bicycles and things like that. So people in her life that were important. And then all these mini Cobra Commanders come in and they start smashing everything, all the portraits and the busts and so he's deciding, we can decide what you will retain and what you will forget forever. So I think his move here is to just make her unrecognizable to Destro. That'll be his ultimate punishment.
Yo, Joe!
And over in Beirut, they go to a Radio Hut. This is funny. Zartan's like, these consumer electronics stores are everywhere. And Chuckles refers to, you should see the McFalafels. That's kind of funny. That's a McDonald's joke. I'm here for it. I appreciate it. So this place has been bombed out. So Beirut was having a rough time at the time. So, but this is where they wanted to go. And so we learned that it's a facade. And it's not meant to fool an expert of visual deception such as Zartan, but it's quite sufficient. Zartan notices that it's cheap, but it's quite sufficient for their needs, which is what Destro is saying. And they're trapped in a laser grid. But then he shouts out the password, which is frozen haggis. Haggis. And we get Rashid. He says, you should have faxed me. You were coming, Destro. You almost got fried. And it is Rashid. Now, if you don't remember Rashid,
Yo, Joe!
shame on you. Shame on me, because I didn't remember Rashid either. When we learned the next page, Rashid, we encountered 58 issues ago, 60 issues ago, I guess, in G.I. Joe 58. In G.I. Joe 58, Rashid was a kid, and he went on a mission with Dusty and Mainframe, and Mainframe sparked his interest in computers. And so Rashid here says that he convinced him that they were the wave of the future and the most potent weapon he could use. And so Rashid became a master hacker, and now he's in the employ of Destro. And then we learn all this. They're on Wild Bill's C-130, and they're flying somewhere. They don't really say where. Chuckles tries to keep secret that they're the G.I. Joe team, but he knows it right away because he's had interactions with G.I. Joe before. And so now he says, can these guys get us into the Night Creeper headquarters in Zurich? And the Ninja Force says, yeah, that's not a problem, because Destro wants Rashid to finish a project that he had started years earlier.
Yo, Joe!
So we're so quick to cast aside Tyrone, but here comes Rashid. Are we just gonna disposable young men here in the G.I. Joe team? There's still no word on what happened to Tyrone. So now we go back to Wild Bill up in the cockpit, and they're flying over the airspace, and they're in the Swiss Alps. And this is great. There's a name check here for a couple of toys, because the Joes are about to use their gliders. They're about to use their the gliders, the G.I. Joe gliders that came out in 1991, the Air Commando stuff. And he does a name check for Skymate and Cloudburst. He says, too bad they're not aboard to brief you on the new gear. But the Joes jump out of this plane in the Air Commando gliders, which, if you remember, were actual gliders. You would strap your G.I. Joe guy in. They had like that circular tail on the back, which probably helped him glide quite a bit. And that's what's drawn here. They look pretty great. And so they all jump out the back of the C-130, and they're all gliding down to the Ninja Castle, with Destro's carrying Rashid, and Rashid's loving it.
Yo, Joe!
Meanwhile, in Zurich, the Night Creepers are they're having their nightly meeting. They're passing the coffee around. I love that Larry plays this up just like any corporation. So they're a bunch of ninjas, but they still have these, corporate board meetings. First order of business, blah, blah, blah. Revised table of rates for charging Cobra Commander for services rendered. Trying to figure out what this slimy snake can afford. Where's that intelligence report based on our penetration of Cobra Commander's Swiss bank account data file? That'll come in handy later. So as they call it up on the computer, that's when all the ninjas and Destro, they break through the window. So this mission, the Chuckles stayed on the plane, which I think makes the most sense. But it's all the ninjas and Zartan busting through this window.
Yo, Joe!
And they start fighting the Night Creepers while Rashid goes to work. He jumps on a computer terminal, and the ninja force is just good, fun ninja action. And we see that Rashid is getting past all their entry codes, etc. And bypassing that, he's hacking. And in like most hacker scenes and things, there's a ticking clock, and someone's like, "We gotta hurry, Rashid." And he says, "Here you go. It's all in her, Destro."
Yo, Joe!
He's activated the first binary virus. The other viruses are ready for activation with the touch of a key. And he says, "Oh, I've also taken the liberty of calling Cobra Commander. And here's a video link." So now Cobra Commander's on video, and he knows he's getting a call from Zurich, from the Night Creepers headquarters. And Destro interjects with it. "I'm the one that's doing the demanding here. I demand the release of the Baroness, cancellation of the bounty on my head, restoration and restitution for my property. None of this is negotiable." And Commander's like, "You're out of your mind." And he reveals that he just activated a dormant virus that's wiped out all record of $10 million of Cobra Commander's funds in the Swiss bank account. And if he doesn't comply, he's going to do the rest to all the other accounts.
Yo, Joe!
And that's when a Televiper confirms with Cobra Commander that what he's saying, that's true. That just happened. It was Cobra Commander's pension plan that's been wiped out. That's pretty funny. He says, "You're a fiend. You must have had that virus planted years ago. You never trusted me." And so he says, "You win. The Baroness is free." But we know Cobra Commander's already done some damage. So it may not be a total victory for him. So now Destro wins with Cobra Commander. And the Night Creepers are like, "How do you plan to escape?" And he says, "I'm going to walk out peacefully, because if not, I'm going to tell Cobra Commander how you've penetrated all of his banking files. And, then you're going to be in a lot of hot water. And so this issue ends. We also get a Spirit pinup, which is great, with his partial bibliography. First appearance, issue 31. Some exciting stuff in 45 to 47 through 50, invading Springfield, 72 to 75, where the Star Viper was invading the pit. And then his adventures in Millville, which we need to go back and revisit. And then we got some postbox from the pit. Chris Church from North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. He's asking for them to include actual birth dates for G.I. Joe members. That'd be interesting. I wonder if they ever did anything like that. Because, so you could celebrate a Joe a day. If there's enough Joes, probably could. James Orr. James Orr is doing some swagger. He's doing some peacocking here. He's like, my collection of Joe action figures will be completely useless. I have 196 of them. This is in 1991. And of those, 9 are dead. There's only 185 counting my 2 extra Hawks, Snake Eyes, and my extra Dukes. That's a lot of swagger, James Orr from Northville, Missouri. Or Northville, Michigan, rather. And, the responder points out, 'cause I don't think this is Larry anymore. A Joe dying in this issue of the comic does not make your action figure invalid, James. Not unless you're blowing up the figures with firecrackers, as we don't recommend. But yeah, James Orr quietly flexing on his 196 strong G.I. Joe collection with very few repeats. That's got to be almost every Joe at that point. We also get something from Gregory Sirachman from Waltham, Massachusetts. I've been to Waltham. He's asking for more blood. He's a little bloodthirsty. I hope he didn't follow through on that. Nikki Nitecki II out of St. Clair, Michigan. John Johnson out of Portland, Connecticut. Will Bush out of Greensburg, Pennsylvania. And Chris Smith out of Wilmington, Delaware. Now, Chris Smith has an interesting one. He's trying to get a no prize. He saw the cover to G.I. Joe 113, and he says that Roadblock looks Caucasian on it. Like, it looks like a white guy. The editor here, or whoever's writing this, says, sorry, Chris, true, Roadblock has some white reflective highlights, but his skin is definitely African-American, not Caucasian. I called that cover up. Chris is out of his mind. Any rational look at that cover, yeah, Roadblock, he's not Wesley Snipes, but you compare him to the other guys on the cover, and Roadblock is obviously African-American on that cover. How dare he, Chris Smith, trying to get you a lazy no prize out of Wilmington, Delaware. So the ending. So I jumped to the end of the book here. That's it for G.I. Joe 118. Rushed. It's a rushed ending on this. I don't enjoy it. This is another one of those, hey, here's a cool little 3-part adventure. And I don't know. It just felt the resolution was just, it's like, I like this use of Rashid. That's fun. But then you don't get this, as promised on the cover, Destro, Cobra Commander, fight to the finish. I don't know what the status of Destro is. He says he just wants his land back and stuff, but does this put him back into play? Cobra Commander is going to release the Baroness, but we know she's been messed with, but there's no teases about that, right? There's no foreshadowing of what that damage did to her. There's no moment of her going, I don't know, and I don't remember what happens next issue, but her going Destro who, or something like, did he remove her memories of Destro, etc., things like that. So there's those kind of things, and it just wraps up too quick for me, for what really it needed another issue, and this goes back to them being on the boat. If they knew they were on this boat, we could have had let's throw another issue in here, and have that boat get attacked a couple times. That would have been fun, because if the Night Creepers knew they were on that boat, apparently they weren't able to stop the communication going out. They were aware that they were on this boat, so they had 2 weeks to find them. I'm sure they would have found them. Things like that. This issue felt rushed. Maybe, I don't know. It was always supposed to be 3 parts, so I don't know. Larry's famous for saying, he doesn't plan ahead. He just gets in and writes, and that's cool. But I think it's to the detriment when you get to times like this, where there's what we want, what we're being billed as, not even what we want. We're billed as, here's a 3-part story. And yes, it wraps up, but I don't think the pacing is great. The pacing is normal for the normal series, but not necessarily for hey, here's 3-part search and destroy. Anyway, there's no resolution on Zartan. He was going to Zartan Zartan was going to Destro for safety. He joined up with the Joes to fight, but what does that mean? You know what I mean? There's just these weird loose ends that are getting glossed over, I think, by just, it needed to be a part 404. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. It's still a great issue. G.I. Joe 118, always fun. So be here next week for G.I. Joe 119. And now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.